So I just watched The Batman, and it was okay. A lot of people are like praising this movie as like a masterpiece, and I really wanted to see that, but I just don't. The movie starts off really strong. He has that. As soon as they start playing that like Nirvana song, I was really like hoping that this would be really great. And for the next like hour or so, because this is a really long movie, I was really enjoying it. But it towards the end, I don't even know when exactly, because the movie is really really long. It just kind of falters a bit. For a 3 hour movie, I would say it's paced fairly well. I was never really bored out of my mind like I worried I might be. But by the third act, I was like, come on, man, this is what you were building towards the whole time? The Riddler gets like progressively worse as the movie goes on. He starts off fairly okay. Like I really liked his scenes towards the beginning. The more he goes on, the more he just feels like so lame. Like he's basically just the Joker, except he leaves like riddles around when he kills people, which I don't know, doesn't really make him all that intimidating. I thought the angle with the like how he's like a vlogger basically, he's basically just like Logan Paul mixed with like the Zodiac killer, which becomes kind of goofy after a while in a way I don't know if it was intentional. I saw this movie with someone else, and in the beginning, the other person was like scared whenever would do something kind of kooky, but by the end, and especially the third act of this movie, we were like both like laughing at him. Paul Dano is really good in the role, but I just feel like the writing brings his character down a lot. I want to say that this is like a spoiler-free review. Yeah. Spoiler-free review. But I just don't even really feel like you can spoil a lot of the things in this movie because it doesn't really do anything that groundbreaking in terms of like a Batman story. Like everything you would expect to be in a Batman story is pretty much there. Like you got everyone in Gotham is corrupt. You got like, there's a villain who's trying to take down Gotham because he thinks that that's the only way to save it. Like, for all the good that this movie does do, it's extremely frustrating that they don't try to do anything more than all the other Batman films. Because, like, I don't even know how many iterations there are of the character at this point. It feels like you could at least try to make something that's different from the rest. I get that it's probably a little hard at this point, but it just becomes hard to enjoy the movie when I'm essentially watching a worse version of The Dark Knight. There's a lot of stuff with like the mafia, which to me at least, this is my humble opinion, I just find that stuff really like not that interesting. I like the Penguin and stuff, but like I was getting really confused when Batman was talking about wait, what are their names? Hold on. Okay, there's Maroni and there's also Falcone, and their names kind of sound similar, so maybe I'm just stupid, but like I was getting them confused. I was like, wait, is this Falcone or Maroni? I get that you have to have some realism in this like fantasy with like a guy who dresses up like a bat and fights crime. I get that, but like I don't know. It was when it's so integral to the story, I was just finding it hard to get invested. I really like that Batman's actually solving a mystery in this one, but I wish the mystery was just a teensy bit more engaging. Like I said earlier, like we know everyone in Gotham is corrupt. So like finding out that they're all on a hit list like really isn't that surprising to me. I don't know. I mean, the mystery, it's not like a terrible mystery, but like I just wish it had been like a tiny bit more subversive at least, like don't go all Ryan Johnson or whatever. But at least try and do something different. That's really just my whole complaint with this movie, is that like it just feels like a worse version of the Nolan movies in terms of like the plot and how it sets everything up. I don't want to give off the impression that I hate this movie, because I really don't. I think it's really, really well made. It's just so frustrating when there are so tiny mistakes that they make that really hold the movie back from being truly great, in my opinion. Also, this is completely a nitpick and doesn't really affect the movie, but like, nobody in this movie dies from anything unless the plot needs them to. This isn't like a huge deal. I just thought it was funny. Like in the beginning of the movie, spoilers, in the beginning of the movie, the Riddler like beats a guy to death with a carpet remover. And I was like, oh shoot, so they're going like ultra realistic on this. But then Batman gets like shot and just kind of shrugs it off. And I assume like, oh, maybe he just has like a bulletproof vest. But then like he gets blown up by a bomb at one point, one of the Riddler's bombs, and it, like he gets knocked out, but he's not like hurt. He just kind of shrugs that off too. And I was like, okay, maybe that's just a Batman thing. But then Alfred gets blown up at one point, and he's in the hospital. He's like hurt, but like he's not dead. He's fine. I'm not saying I want Alfred to die, but like it just reminded me of the Spider-Man movie from a few months ago. It has basically the same setup where Alfred has like a bomb in his hand that goes off, and it just is weird to me that like a movie about like multiverses and that has like a wizard in it has more realistic death than what is supposed to be a gritty and serious like murder mystery. The like woman who's like wants to be the mayor gets shot by one of the Riddler's minions, and like she shrugs it off too. So I'm like, what is like obviously you can survive getting shot, but like she's not like hurt by it. Like if you were shot, I think she gets shot in the shoulder. If you were shot in the shoulder, like you would not just be able to shrug that off. I know that the town was flooding and stuff, but still you would be really, really hurt. And like I don't know, I'm not familiar with the comics. The Penguin is just like a normal guy, right? So there's one scene that's a really cool scene, by the way, but there's one scene where like Batman and the Penguin are in a car chase, and the Penguin like blows something up in Batman's car, and it doesn't affect him. And I'm like, okay, that's like movie logic. I get that. But then like Batman like flips the Penguin's car, and he flips like 5 times, probably more than that actually. But he flips him like 5 times. I'm like,
stop! He's already dead.
But then the Penguin just like, he doesn't even have a scratch on him, I don't think. And I'm like, I get that it's a movie and it's not gonna be 100% realistic, and that this is just nitpicking, but it becomes kind of hard to like feel stakes in the movie when everyone feels invincible. I'm sorry, I feel like I've just been nothing but complaining about the movie, but for a 3-hour movie, it just becomes hard when you're just sitting there and like the movie just keeps going and going. It becomes hard not to notice these things. The Riddler's plan, again, maybe I'm just stupid, but the Riddler's plan is really weird. Full spoilers. I think I already said that. Full spoilers. His plan is to like flood Gotham, which I thought was like, oh no, he's gonna like kill a bunch of people. And I was wondering like, how is Batman gonna stop him? Like Batman really doesn't stop him, and the city is flooded anyway. But the Riddler seems really upset for some reason. I didn't follow that. Maybe it's because the mayor wasn't killed that he was like crying and upset. But like it just seemed like a weird reaction, because he basically got what he wanted to in the end. It didn't really seem like he wanted to kill Batman. Like in the scene when Batman was interrogating the Riddler in prison, the Riddler did not really give off the impression that he hated Batman or really even wanted to kill him. So, the scene where they're setting up the Joker, out of everything in the movie, I would say that like most of it can be forgiven. Like most of my problems in the movie you can look past. But I really just cannot look past the fact that they are seriously setting up another Joker. Like, come on. This is the third Joker they've had in like 4 years. It's getting kind of ridiculous. Like, Batman has one of the coolest rogues galleries of any superhero ever, and they just keep reusing Joker. Like, I like Joker, don't get me wrong, but A, you're not gonna be better than Heath Ledger unless you do something totally different, like the Joaquin Phoenix. And B, I just think it's like really lazy to just use one villain when there are so many other stories and like Batman villains that could make for new and exciting ways to explore this character. I'm not really familiar with Barry Keoghan, I think that's how you say his name. I'm not familiar with him as an actor, but from the performance he gave in this movie, he didn't seem like that good. Like, he was definitely the weakest actor in this movie, and I'm just really not excited if he is the main villain of the next movie. I'm sorry, but I'm just really, like, not excited for that. But aside from the very long list of issues that I had with the movie, I think that the movie, at its core, is a good movie. I've been like nothing but complaining, but it is good. Robert Pattinson is the best Batman that has ever been. I thought it would be pretty hard to be better than Christian Bale, but from the first scene of the movie, I'm like, okay, this is Batman. This is how he should be. I really like how stylized this movie is compared to like the Nolan movies, which are fairly straightforward. I love how like this movie isn't afraid to embrace like the comic bookiness of everything, which again, like compared to the Nolan movies, everything is just kind of like serious and more mature, I guess. But this leans a lot more into like the fantasy elements, which is refreshing to see because like he fights crime in a bat suit. How realistic can you get? I like how like when he's Batman for like most of the movie. But like when he steps forward, like that's almost like a character trait. Like when he starts walking, you know stuff is gonna go down. The sound design on like his footsteps is like actually like you feel the fear that like he isn't going to beat someone up or he's going to solve a crime. The design of Gotham looks really cool and unique. It kind of feels like a mixture of like the Nolan movies with the Tim Burton movies. I really like how it makes like the best of both worlds because it always feels to me like really jarring to go from like the extremely stylized like Tim Burton movies to like the very mature and realistic like Nolan movies, and this feels like a good like mixture of in between, and I really liked that. I really liked Alfred in the movie. He's played by Gollum, and he was really good. I like how even though this movie is very dark and serious, like they kind of make Alfred seem like the stepdad and Bruce is like the emo son who doesn't want to ever go outside. And that was a really good relationship. When like Alfred like has the bomb in his hand, like I was really scared for him. He doesn't die, but like I was like, oh shoot, I really cared about Alfred, which is impressive because like there have been like countless iterations of the character. And when you know that like in 5 years they're just gonna remake the franchise and everything is gonna be fine, like it becomes a lot harder to care about the characters in the movie. But this movie managed to mostly avoid that problem, which I thought was really impressive. I liked Catwoman in the movie. Normally Catwoman is more just like, I don't know, she kind of feels like the femme fatale and like nothing more than that. Like she's just there to make Bruce do bad things. But in this movie, she's actually a real person and she has real wants and needs. I was very much engaged in her subplot, and I was like wondering, she's not really as like morally righteous as Batman, but she's still like a good person at heart. And I thought that their relationship was another really good thing in the movie. A good thing about the movie being like 3 hours long is that like There are a lot of different relationships in the movie that can be fully explored without feeling rushed. Batman and Alfred have a really good dynamic. Batman and Commissioner Gordon have a really good dynamic. And like Batman and Catwoman all have a really good dynamic. And if this were just like a regular like 2-hour movie, I feel like something would have to be cut. But because like they let it go out for so long, it really feels natural, and you get to feel everyone how like everyone in the movie relates to one another in a way that like a lesser movie would struggle with. The score for this movie was good, but I don't know if I would call it great. It's not as good as the Hans Zimmer score from the Nolan movies, not even close in my opinion. But for this movie, I think it works fairly well. I liked how even though the movie was dark and serious for the most part, there were still some light moments of levity that it didn't feel like completely miserable to sit through. Obviously, it's not gonna be like a Marvel movie, but it's still like it's not like completely grim dark, even though there are a lot of scenes in the movie that are very much like hopeless and disturbing. The cinematography of this movie was really good. I kind of like took it for granted after a while because of how long the movie is, but every shot is like really creative and visually distinct. And that's something that a lot of superhero movies don't bother with, unfortunately. And I appreciate that they put in the effort for this movie, especially with how like grand in scope it is and how long it is. A lot of people have said this already, but I feel like this movie is worse than The Dark Knight as a movie, but as a Batman movie, I feel like it's a little more true to the character and how it feels and like the overall tone of it. And it's really impressive how this movie manages to make like blend the silly and the dark and horrifying in it really well. Even though I have like a lot of complaints with this movie, I still think it's a good movie, and I think Matt Reeves did a really good job directing it. I just wish that there could be a few things fixed in order for me to like really love it. But it's a fine movie. Don't let my like nitpicks like turn you off from it. It's still really well made, and the acting for the most part is really fantastic. So I'm gonna give The Batman a thumbs up.